Hi everyone, it's Racz. Fall's here and the air is getting crisp, so now's as good a time as any to talk about a relatively inexpensive piece of gear that takes a little research and experimentation to figure out what to use. But today we're going to talk about hip waders in particular. And if you're looking for full waders, the materials apply with the same way. But basically I'll just show you the first pair of hip waders that I ever bought. These were from Cabela's, just the regular standard old school boots connected. These are a little different than maybe the rubber ones, the heavy rubber ones they used to sell. These are actually a little lighter. Some manufacturers call them feather light. And I got several years. I'm thinking about maybe 5 years out of them. You can kind of see, I don't know, they're actually scuffed and they definitely have some wear. And I think a pair of these, they run between $40 and $80 depending if you can find them on sale. Cabela's probably has the largest selection of hip waders and waders out of anyone I've seen to date. But I've done lots of research. I went to school to be a teacher, so with the little teaching experience I gained, I guess I like to research stuff. And the reason why I'm starting on this is it's the lowest price point wader you can do. So many people are going to think, well, what's the big deal about hip waders? Anybody that owns them knows that they're going to get you on at least, it's hard to estimate how much you fish, but you stand a good chance of getting on a dozen more quality fish a year with them, maybe more depending on your environment. But the main thing to look for is just don't one-up your size. It should be your shoe size, but going into the store is going to be key for comfort. And that's pretty much it. This is what I started with. They don't breathe, and that can be kind of tricky because they're going to trap moisture. So in essence, this is a preferred material like if you live in the Pacific Northwest where it doesn't get very hot normally and it doesn't get extremely cold. You can layer underneath this. It's versatile, I would say, temperature-wise, anything from about 58 degrees up until about 68. Usually when the nighttime and the daytime temperatures even, there's not a lot of sun and humidity. Sun and humidity, nowhere for the moisture to escape. But really good, kind of retro. And I've done a ton of walking and these soles are barely touched. I really like them and I would recommend them for the money. But I haven't been able to convince anybody to start trying them and take them seriously. I guess we're taught about so many faster moving approaches, and wader means slow fishing, but you can run fast presentations in there. I'll have some footage later on in the future to show you how to run crankbaits at 2 different angles, how to run crankbaits more effectively in them, how to really comb an area thoroughly. But back to the material, economical, not breathable, very abrasion resistant and durable. I don't think it really matters. You know, all you do is you just put them on and you clip these around your belt loop here like this. It's a pretty simple game. Run that through there. There's your waders. Or pardon me, if you were using waders, again, in waders you're going to get hotter even faster. So you can withstand some relative heat in these. I always had 2 pairs and would like change them out because this in here would get damp. And one thing you want to get is you want to get a little insulated pair. Meaning not insulated in here. They're not going to be insulated in here. They're going to be insulated in the boot with just probably some fleece. Nothing heavy gauge. But you could be stepping in some cold spots, and if they're not insulated, they're going to get pretty cold. Because even I've fished in August and hit cold springs, and my feet are almost not able to move, even in like hunting socks or heavier hiking socks. So that's the key too. And since I'm on the socks and I've got the bag right here, I'll just talk about the socks real quick. And again, these are the same socks you use for waders. These are actually called hunting socks. If you hunt, you know what they are. If you fish, well, I don't think most fishermen know what these are, but they're long. These are Cabela's too. They're long, and you can do 2 pairs of these if you want to layer, which is, again, going to increase your versatility. So for the dollar point, I like to recommend things that are economical and versatile, and those are great for that. And also, like your standard like what I would call hiking socks like this. Again, Cabela's. These are merino wool, so they transfer, even though these don't breathe, they transfer sweat out, and it kind of makes a difference. If you buy a cheap sock, it's going to stick more. And that's pretty much it for the socks. There's not a lot to explain with that, because that's the same socks you would use for wading. So again, just to recap this, hip boots, versatile, economical, great for spring, summer, fall, as long as it's not too hot or too cold. Now your next gauge up and your next price point up are going to be either 3mm neoprene, which is the gauge of this neoprene material. But these I got were 5s. The reason why I got 5s was I'd rather have a little warm than too cold. So I remember I was fishing with the other ones, the ones I just showed you before, and I'm like, who needs neoprene? And then 2 days later, the water gets cold, you'll need them if you're serious about this. 3mm would be a little cheaper. This is a pretty heavy boot. It's not really designed for comfort. These are designed for hunting and being relatively stationary. If you're going to do a ton of walking in them, you're going to get uncomfortable. What is great about this neoprene material? Super abrasion resistant. Some people get a lifetime out of a pair. Again, you're going to stay with the same size shoe you'd wear. There's a ton of insulation. I think this is like 1800 insulate or something like that. I don't know if it says. Steel shank boot. Again, it's a Cabela's. They call it a hunting hip boot. I've caught lots of big crappie in this thing late season, where I've actually fished with people and they were amazed, like, dang, just because I was able to get a little farther out and hit those drop-offs. And that's summertime, spring, summer, fall. That's what these hip boots are going to do. There's nothing more economical and portable with less maintenance that you're going to get longevity out of than a good pair of hip boots. So I would go 3mm or 5mm for, depending, mid-fall, early fall, up until it gets pretty cold, and you're going to use the same socks. So these usually start running about 120 to 180, 200, depending on the features. You're going to put them on the same way with your belt clip right there. And one thing I do recommend is I will throw something out for wader safety, because it's no joke. If you've seen the movie A River Runs Through It, that's a lot of what's conceptualized with wading. You're never just going to walk straight out and start power casting. If you live in the Midwest where we have softer bottoms, again, that movie and trout fishing out west is hard bottom. There's soft bottom areas, and you could fall in, and everyone kind of falls in at some point. I've told people to wade, and I will show this later on, but actually you just step to the side, and instead of doing this straight back, you go to the side, wear polarized glasses. It always looks shallower than it is. So if you think it's like a foot when you start wading, it could be 3 feet deep. And people have actually told me their heads have gone under with waders on. If you're wading, you're going to wear your belt, but we're talking hip boots. So, and the reason why hip boots are a great way to learn wader safety, it's serious. Hard bottom areas, not so much. The good news is, I've learned through experience, your softer bottom areas where your waders sink in, there's usually not as many bass around them, because bass like that firm bottom. But there could be bass around the drop-offs. So just be mindful of soft bottom areas. If you start sticking quick, you're going to want to get out quicker than sooner. So that's just the safety recap. And so that'd be your neoprene material. So your last material, we're still on neoprene, and this is still a 5mm. Again, this is the gauge of it's the same kind of neoprene in a different camo pattern, but these are something you'd walk on the moon with. These are 1600 steel shank Cabela's. Again, same size as the shoe you'd wear. These are meant for fishing very late in the season, up until ice formation, and staying very, very stationary. Not a lot of mobility, not a lot of comfort, but extreme warmth. Some seasons I use them, some seasons I don't. It just depends on how I want to fish, how much I'm moving, and so on. But you can see this is serious, like triple layering or quadruple layering, double the insulation of the ones I showed you before. So pretty much that's it in a nutshell when it comes to your hip boots. You can go with the least expensive pair, which aren't going to handle extremes, and then there's a pair for middle of the season, and then there's a later season pair. Depending on where you fish at and how you fish, you can make the call. If you're in doubt and you don't have a lot of money, without question, go with these. Learn the ropes. I mean, if I could get 5 years out of them and catch, oh gosh, I don't know, well over 100 fish, I don't know, a couple hundred fish. I learned to fish structure with this. I learned to alternate rods, just do everything in them. And I'll tell you what, the one thing about hip boots, I don't know anybody that owns a boat, if they have the time to, that's actually going out 3-4 times a week, launching a boat 3-4 times a week. You could fish places in these 3-4 times a week and get in, get out. The only thing you do is you just rinse them off with a hose and dry them upside down. There's a hanger actually for that. That's it. You hang them upside down, you clean them off. They're low maintenance, they're fun, they're portable. You don't need a truck, you can fit them anywhere, and you can buy 3 different pairs and still be, you know, not very high in terms of expense. And the final pair is breathable, and what breathable is breathable is going to breathe, and you can layer underneath it. Breathable costs more money. I have breathable waders, but not hip boots. So breathable is probably your most versatile option, but it's your most expensive. But your breathable boot foot wader is not going to, this breathable boot foot wader is not going to be able to keep you, because water gets in and out of here actually, is not going to be able to keep you as warm as your like neoprene hunting type boot foot wader. So those are all the keys. To recap it up, you got your denier material, fleece insulation, which I definitely do recommend for a few more dollars. Versatile, outside of the extremes. 5mm neoprene boot. It's like 1800 insulin. Some of them are 600. 5mm. Again, really easy, super abrasion resistant. And then you got your 16s, depending on where you live. You may never ever want to get these. You definitely want to get to your spot, walk, and fish it, and not move around a lot in them. But I've caught some big crappie and not really any pig-sized largemouth, but definitely some good-sized largemouth. And when you fish later on in the season, when you fish earlier, these are great tools to learn to fish earlier and later. When you identify a spot in the fall, a structure area that holds fish, you can mark that as an important place that they could use as a transition migratory area for midsummer when they get bigger. Same thing later on in the season, and fish location areas can change by dynamic. So you can get on fish year round and beef up your game that way. If you like this kind of stuff and you haven't subscribed, please do. Thank you for those that have subscribed. And it's been a while since I got a video out. Fishing, the water's been low and I haven't caught anything. So I'm looking forward now that the water levels are up to cranking. But thank you again. That's a recap of hip waders. Your number one effective, cost-effective tool to get anybody on more fish, no matter what they fish for. And this channel, again, focuses on largemouth, but has a kind of a game fish dynamic to it. And I will just definitely say this. If you do largemouth, no one thinks hip boots or waders for largemouth. It's trout fishermen use them, maybe a little bit more so, or walleye, river type fishermen. But if you're a bass fisherman, even if you own a boat, get a pair of hip boots, try to hit some close spots. You'll really be amazed at what you can catch. So thanks again for those that have subscribed. Please subscribe if you haven't. You like this stuff. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. And I'm looking forward to get some fish catching videos out here soon. Get in these waders or maybe do some stitching. Thank you. And just to recap that, this is the proper way that you're going to store these. So this little clip piece here that you purchase costs like 10 bucks or 12 bucks. It will make your waders last. If you don't, they can dry rot. So that's what your hip boots are going to look like when they're hanging. So thank you again.